This is the second Pacific Women Lead Annual Reflection and Analysis Workshop. We are here with 140 participants from across the Pacific representing the diverse partners under Pacific Women Lead. We're excited to see that the program has grown because last year we only had 77 participants. Like last year, we are here to reflect our progress as a program and learn from our challenges to inform how we will go forward in the next year.
The rating for Women and Girls' Voice was slightly less than expected to as expected. The evidence suggests that while there are pockets of progress and notably every recommendation from last year's workshop was fully implemented, however, the interventions have not been sufficiently disruptive or well-resourced to lead to significant, widespread changes.
The recommendations for Women and Girls' Voice are: increase investment in women and girls' voice outcome areas, invest in researching shifts in social norms to understand barriers to women and girls' leadership, increase investment on promoting young and adolescent girls' visibility and active and meaningful participation in decision-making spaces.
The outcome area for Pacific feminist leadership was rated as expected. Stakeholders at this year's workshop noted the additional boost in target funding to the North Pacific, which resulted directly from last year's discussions. Another key achievement was the increased donor diversification brought to the region by the 3 Pacific Women's Funds.
Partners recommend the Women's Fund to consider developing a disability strategy. DFAT to ensure the different managing contractors are working together. Women's Fund to expand definitions of feminist organizations in order to connect non-traditional women's organizations into the feminist movement.
We rated women's leadership, promoted, and disability inclusion as less than expected to as expected. Progress has been made since 2023 and more projects are putting supports in place to enable women with disabilities to join activities. However, there is still limited evidence of outcomes experienced by women and girls with disabilities.
The following are needed to support inclusion of people with disability in women's leadership promoted. Increase the part of funding to be spent on disability inclusion to 10%. Support the strengthening of organizations of people with disabilities. Pacific Women Lead at SPC and grantees to include people with disabilities in governance and decision-making bodies.
This year's rating for women's safety fell between less than expected to as expected. All of the stakeholders in the room stated they knew that work was getting done on the ground, but that clearly this data wasn't being adequately captured through partners' reporting.
Partners in the room provide the following recommendations. Pacific Women Lead Enabling Services, Pacific Women Lead at SPC and implementing partners to strengthen data collection efforts, support South-to-South exchanges to accelerate development of capacity to deliver services in small island countries. Pacific Women Lead at SPC and DFAT to provide funding to crisis centers in countries where they don't exist. Include in funding the ability to provide communication support, particularly for rural areas, to enable data collection that in turn support service delivery.
The progress rating for women's economic empowerment was as expected. While the data shows numerous trainings taking place, the question remains the same. What's the tangible impact of these efforts? It's clear that we need to better connect these micro-level activities to broader microeconomic systems to create lasting change.
We recommend the program to ensure grantees are reporting more evidence on enabling environments that have propelled women's economic empowerment initiatives, grantees and regional organisations to engage with government for policy reform, to increase funding for women's economic empowerment.
Stakeholders rated progress in women's sexual and reproductive health and rights as expected. There were some big wins, like legalizing diverse gender and sexualities in the Cook Islands, and improvements in the post-abortion care in the Solomon Islands.
The partners in the room gave the following recommendations for the program.
provide support for provision of friendly, safe and confidential sexual reproductive health services in communities, strengthen the development, collation, collection and analysis of disaggregated data, regular and continuous coordination and collaboration between Pacific Women Lead at SPC and development partners to enable comprehensive documentation of results and progress for targeted intervention.
We rated women's rights realized and disability inclusion progressing as expected. Partners noted the significant increase in efforts that had gone into reporting greater preconditions across the portfolio.
Partners gave the following recommendations to support disability inclusion in women rights realized. Grantees to improve reporting on inclusion, participation and impact. Pacific Women Lead to establish a dedicated fixed budget to support disability inclusion. Grantees to increase collaboration with government to strengthen policies and their implementation.
The rating on progressing regional gender equality commitments as less than expected to as expected. Partners highlighted that the recommendations from last year were implemented and that the data is captured well. The coordination of regional gender efforts was strengthened and that there is a stronger commitment to regional collaboration.
Regional organizations or crop agencies have a really important role to play, not only in leveraging gender equality efforts across the region, but to ensure that the aspirations we have as a region in relation to gender equality are fulfilled. It's important for us to draw linkages not only across crop agencies, but also recognizing the importance of sub-regional mechanisms in this space. The Pacific region has had commitments for gender equality for decades. So at regional level, the aspiration, the commitment is very clear. But the same is not true for the different levels of governance in our region, which is why as regional organizations, the importance of strengthening partnerships, not only with crop agencies, but also with sub-regional mechanisms is very, very critical.
The progress on gender mainstreaming is rated as less than expected to as expected. While progress is slow, there has been so much achieved with limited funds, which includes technical support to government and targeted sectorial support. It should also be noted that gender mainstreaming is not only about processes, there's much more, but having a gender policy is just the start. There is so much more work that still needs to be done.
We recommend the following for the gender mainstreaming outcome. We request increasing funding for gender mainstreaming, improve data collection and evidence of gender mainstreaming, strengthening national coordination mechanism for gender mainstreaming.